Hey, it's the upgrade. My name is Gary Muttley. He is
Len Carmichael, Landmine Studios. How's it going, Gary?
Oh, it's hot.
It's way too fucking hot. And I had a day.
You had a day. I had a day of nothing. Just sitting here roasting.
What's up with your air conditioner? Is it just not working?
Well, in the back, I don't have an air conditioner. Mm-hmm. I have it in my bedroom, which is obviously the most important room in the house.
All the rooms in the house are important. Don't talk like that. All the rooms. As a fat guy who loves air conditioning, all the rooms are important.
Well, you got to think about this too. When I do the show, I'm like right next to the window, so if I had the air conditioner on, all you'd hear is...
I would get over it.
So,
like...
Yeah, well, see how you feel when you're editing and all you hear is... Like, I can't hear you.
Yo, I walked into the studio this afternoon to see Dylan, and he had the fucking air conditioner on brick. He had that shit at 68. I was like, yo, my man, that is some gangster temperature right there. And it felt amazing. Amazing. I was like, thank you. Because I had been sitting at my dad's house, and it was fucking hot as shit because my dad doesn't believe in air conditioning.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, dude, you're too old for this. Like, this is not healthy for an 86-year-old man. And he's like, I don't like air conditioning. And I'm like, you need to learn how to like air conditioning, buddy. It's gonna save you.
Yeah, when you're at that age, like, how do you not like air conditioning? Like,
bro, I don't know.
Dude, I'm 47, and like, okay, I don't like it brick.
I
but
do.
Like,
I love it.
I like it at a nice temperature, like definitely cooler than what's outside right now.
Yeah, what's outside right now is some Satan's balls shit.
Yeah, like I don't like it set like my girlfriend likes shit set to fucking morgue. Like I can't.
Yeah, that's what I like it set
Yeah,
to.
I can't
like,
take it to that level.
Bring the clowns in. It's fucking time.
No, I like it cool, but not like fucking meat locker.
Yo, bring me the meat locker.
Yeah, like she like you and like she would do the same thing. Like you people would have fucking meat hanging in the apartment. I don't take it that far.
For sure. You got to figure it this way, bud. I'm sitting in my basement right now, and it's a good 8 degrees cooler in my basement than it is upstairs, and I'm dreading going upstairs to go to bed because I know I'm going to start sweating because I'm down here with no socks on, feet on the cold floor, staying as icebox as possible. Like if somebody could be any more icebox than I am right now, I would be impressed. Yeah, so I want it cold.
No,
my mom used to tell me that she would have to take me when I was a kid, and like it was before we lived in a house that had central air. She would actually have to take me out in the car and drive around to cool me off to get me to go to bed because I wouldn't fall asleep. I would just be cranky, crying, and like just a terrible baby. And she's like, that was the only way I could get you to go to bed.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, it's about the same now. Like, if it's too hot, on tour, we would go out places, and I would be just, like, unable to sleep. And I wouldn't sleep for, like, 3 days because I just couldn't find, like, a temperature and a location that was suitable to my needs. Like, I'm picky. I'm a diva when it comes to sleep. I need it to be fucking icebox cold. I want a blanket, and it needs to be fucking comfortable. This whole sleeping on the floor shit is not for me.
See, sleeping is one thing. Like I'm fine with keeping it brick when it's bedtime, but like
you got a blanket.
Yeah, like because I'll roll with 2 comforters. I don't give a shit. But like regular living, like no, like in the car. Dude, like we went to do a family thing this weekend, and she's got the shit set at like 40. Yeah, I'm sitting shotgun and like I can't feel my hands. Like, this is a little much.
Yo, that's me. That's 100% me. I'm like, yo, let's keep this thing as icebox as possible. I'm paying for it. Let's go.
See, I like bedtime, yeah, but like regular living, no, I can't live like that. That's too much.
Nah,
cool, yeah, but not like frozen.
Nah, I want it icebox.
Yeah, when like ice don't melt, like it's a little much.
I had picked up a drink today while I was out, like, because I was running around just getting some shit, and my drink never froze. I mean, never unfroze.
Never unfroze.
never unfroze. That shit was cold the whole time. I got back to my house 2 hours later with ice. I still had ice in the fucking cup.
Yeah, that's serious.
That's how I like it.
That's dedication.
That's how I like it. Don't fuck with me. I want that ice shit.
You want the icicles dripping from the ceiling?
Yep. So, what do you want to talk about today? That's been my day. I haven't stopped since basically 9 o'clock.
Well, but that's why I said if you wanna bag it for another day, we'll figure it out. But otherwise, like, I figured you might need the fucking distraction for a little while.
No, I'm good. It just depends on what you want to talk about, because I don't have anything prepared.
No, I don't have anything prepared, but...
Did you finish... Alright, how about this? Did you finish Handmaid's Tale?
Goddamn motherfucker, stop reading my fucking mind, man. That's what I was about to ask you.
Yeah, bro.
Because I didn't get a chance to watch the last episode until today.
Oh, okay.
Because Tara was here all week, and I'm like, if I watch this with her, she's just going to be totally fucking mind-fucked.
Right.
So and we were watching other shit, because she was here all week.
Mm-hmm.
So I just left it alone, and then today, like, she left last night, and I was fucking tired of shit last night, because, like, I nodded out, and she fucking left, like, while I was like half asleep, and then like I woke up again at like 10 o'clock at night, and of course it was up until crazy late. But then I watched it today. I was like, I gotta watch this. So finally, I fucking watched it today, and that's what I was going to ask you about.
Oh yeah, I watched it.
Because
I didn't watch it the day it came out. I had to wait like 2 days just because like some other stuff was going on. But I watched it, and yo.
All right. First things first. Since we're in show at this point. If you're listening and you haven't watched The Handmaid's Tale, get the fuck out right now, because unless you just don't care, because we're going to spoil the shit out of it right now. So you have been warned. If you don't care, that's cool. If you plan on watching this show, because season 4 just ended, if you plan on watching this show, don't listen to this episode.
Do not listen.
Because we are going to spoil this motherfucker like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, the great thing about this is that we have similar perspectives, because while this show has been on for a while, you and I both binged this shit over like the past month or so.
Right.
All 4 seasons.
I watched all 4 seasons. I caught up just to the point where I watched episode 9 the week it came out, and I only had to wait for one episode.
Yeah, exactly the same here. Because you and I were talking about it, and you thought that I might pass you, and then like we ended up being about the same.
Right.
And then I didn't get a chance to ask you if you would watch the last one.
Yep.
Because I thought maybe it was a few, and then I saw something saying that it was the last episode of the season, and I was like, oh shit, it's fucking done already.
Yeah, because season 1 was 10 episodes. Right. And then seasons 2 and 3 were 13, so I was expecting season 4 to be 13.
That's what I thought also. And
but I guess COVID fucked that up.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Something fucked it up. But I was in that mode of like, okay, there's still going to be some more.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, that was the season finale. Like, oh, okay. And I get all fucked up too, because they do... You know, like you said, it was 10 episodes and 13 episodes, and like Netflix does some shit that's short and then longer, and all these other series, like there's no set number as far as the seasons go. So like, some of them only have 6 or 8 episodes, and then some of them have 10 or 12 or even more.
Well, what I know what I know is that they were picked up for season 5.
Yes.
So there's going to be one more season, but there's a potential that it's going to be the last season.
Which is fine because I think
they've run it pretty dry.
They're at the point. I don't want to see them get to the point that I've seen some shows, and Sons of Anarchy is an example, where they outstay their welcome and you watch it and you're like, you know what? They should have just wrapped this up last season.
Right.
Like the ending was there, it was right, and they should have just called it, because now it's just beating a dead horse. And I don't want to see this show get to that point.
I think also we have a different perspective because we did binge the entire thing within 2 months. So it's just like watching one long movie instead of waiting. Because like if we had been waiting 4 years to get some of these results, we may be thinking about this completely different.
Well, that's why I mentioned it, because I think that's part of it, because I think if we were sitting on this thing for a long time, we might look at it a little different, like you said.
Right. But since you get to see, like I got to see the whole arc of what's happened so far
in a short
amount of time. So do you want to talk about it season by season, or do you want to just talk about this last season?
I mean, we could talk about it however you want, just in general. I might need, if we get into certain specifics, I might need to just give myself a little refresher.
Right.
Although, for the most part, it's still fresh in my head because, like we were saying, we both banged through it in the past month. It's not like we watched it a couple of years ago, when it first aired, and the stuff is forgotten already. It's still pretty fresh. But
so one thing I did, I went back and I watched the movie from 1989.
That's something I wanted to do and didn't get a chance to do.
Do not do it.
Okay. Why?
Because it's almost verbatim season 1.
Okay.
Just shorter. When I say shorter, I mean it's an hour and 50 minutes.
Well, I was going to say it was just a single movie.
Right. It's just a single movie. It's like an hour and 45, an hour and 50 minutes long, and it's just a really condensed version of season 1.
Which I can't even imagine.
Right, like season 1 was done so well that watching the movie after the fact made the movie seem really stupid. Also, in the movie...
That was 1990, by the way.
1990? Okay. In the movie, and this is a spoiler for anybody that's going to watch the movie, they somehow get her name wrong, and they call her Kate throughout the movie. And June is someone else in the movie.
Oh, that's confusing.
And it's fucking confusing as shit. Otherwise, there's slight differences, but nothing that would make you cringe. Like they take things from a slightly different angle in certain spots, but they tie together very, very well. So basically, episode 1 is probably the first 20 minutes of the movie. And episode, basically through 10 episodes, you can do 15-minute segments in the movie.
So, for the most part, they stick close to the source material.
Yeah.
Because I know Margaret Atwood was involved in the planning of the TV show.
Right. And
side note, by the way, and I only found this out today because I happened to watch some video about it. She has a little quick cameo in season 1.
Yeah, she's in season 1. She's one of the aunts.
Yeah, which I didn't know, and I saw that today, and I was like, what?
It's a great nod.
Yeah.
What I do know is that she wrote a follow-up book that is after Gilead, basically, and Hulu was smart and picked up the option on it.
Of course.
So there may be a follow-up Handmaid's Tale secondary season, kind of like they did with where AMC did with Better Call Saul, where they wrote something that ties in without it having to be the same thing.
And that came out just recently.
Yeah.
2019.
which is crazy because she wrote that first book in '85 or something like that.
I know, and I really wonder because when did the show start?
Show started 4 or 5 years ago. So it was like right after the show started, she wrote the book.
Yeah, so I wonder if that was kind of
had to.
Yeah.
Well, she's been involved in every season because she wrote the book and they adapted the book for season 1, and then everything else has been their own thing.
Been new. Yeah.
So I think she's been part of story development. I'm speaking off the cuff here, but I would assume she's been involved in story development just because it's part of her canon.
I would think
the way they pull her in.
With the fact that she's been involved, I would assume that that's where it's headed, which is no different from stuff like Game of Thrones.
Right.
Which Game of Thrones went to the point where it went past
the books
that he had. But it also went in different directions. So, but that's what happens because I've talked about it before with The Walking Dead and how The Walking Dead is completely different from the source material, the comic book. So it goes off in other directions. There's a lot of characters that live in one that don't live in the other, et cetera, et cetera.
So the only things that I feel are unresolved before we even start digging in are the daughter,
Hannah.
Yeah, Hannah.
Yeah,
and Serena finding out that her husband is dead. But I feel like she sort of set that up.
Well,
I feel like she was involved in that setup.
You think so?
I don't know. The only thing that makes me not think so was like one of those final scenes where she was trying to zoom him and he wasn't picking up the zoom.
Yeah, I don't think she's in on it because she spent a lot of time. She was the one really acting on his behalf because remember she was saying, "Okay, I want this or this conversation's over."
That's true.
So she was kind of the one orchestrating everything on that side. So why would she go and do that if she was going to go and do the dude dirty anyway? So I don't think she knows. And why would, we already gave the spoiler warning. Why would they send her the finger in the ring?
Yo, that was fucking...
let me tell you something. Let's talk about this for a second. That last episode
was everything that I needed.
Wild.
If they ended the series on that, I would have been perfectly happy. Like, I don't need to see them get Hannah back. I don't really care.
I mean, the Hannah thing is weird at this point anyway, because...
The kid doesn't even know who they are.
Well, just June's change over the last few episodes is fucking bananas. And I love that sick, twisted, sinister shit. Mm-hmm. So she was always trying to get back to her life and this and that. And at the end, you realize
there is nothing for her
to get back. That's not happening.
Yeah, she can't get back to it.
That bitch has gone full wild.
Yeah.
She has gone full crazy.
And I'm going to say, Luke, that final scene, his acting was perfect.
Yeah.
Because he's
that
just
dude was
looking
just
at her like,
fuck.
I don't even know you anymore. That was the look on his face.
Yeah.
Like, you got to go.
Well, one of the things that I was wondering about as things progressed was this whole thing of her relationship with Nick versus her relationship with Luke. Because obviously you can't have both. So it's like she's playing both sides of the line.
Yep. Because
she sees Nick and it's all love, even though that dude is in the commander role now in Gilead. But then her relationship with Luke. And Luke was always, besides Hannah, Luke was the other thing that motivated her to do a lot of the shit that she did. But now, well, tell me this. What's your interpretation of the ending as far as Nick goes? Because I heard something, and I don't know if it's a reliable source, but I found it to be very interesting, and I'm wondering what your interpretation is before I tell you what I heard.
Well, I look at Nick, and now when I look at Nick, I see someone who was not a company person, like, just kind of not saving himself, but he knew what he was doing, like playing that role.
Yeah,
and
he
continued to play it because he knew he had to do it to survive.
Yeah,
and I feel like he's been doing that the whole time.
Right.
Because obviously they show at the beginning of the first season that he was a wild kid and like constantly freaking out on people, etc. And he got brought in because he was seen as somebody that could hold it down when it comes to like confrontation.
Right.
So they were like, yeah, we need to keep this kid around. But he's done things every season basically that says, I'm not fully on board with this.
Right.
And I loved at the end where he kissed June in front of Waterford.
Yep.
Because like it literally crushed Fred.
Oh yeah.
To know that he had been sabotaged the whole time, and the idea in his mind that the kid was named Nicole, and it was specific because it was Nick's kid.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there was so many little layers to that one singular kiss in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he's out in the woods about to get fucking murked, and he knows it. He's, you know, just taking that ride. Like he's been railroaded by June, who he fucked over and over and over again for many seasons, and the person who helped her is his protege, his right-hand man.
Yep.
It was the ultimate betrayal for him.
Oh, for sure. But I also think, I also always got the impression that he was a little sketchy. But what I had heard, and I didn't interpret it this way when I watched it, but what I heard somewhere on a YouTube video, and I don't know if this is true or not, was that
Oh, God.
That was Nick also defecting.
You think so?
That's what they said. I didn't interpret it that way, but then when I saw that mentioned, I was like, that's an interesting way to look at it, because I didn't read it that way. And now I'm like, because that would be an interesting twist in itself, because also if
Joseph was involved.
Well,
Lawrence, whatever, Commander Lawrence.
Well, Lawrence was definitely
he was
involved.
Always.
And that was a master play on her part.
Mm-hmm.
But now the other part of it is if she's leaving Luke and leaving that house, where is she going? So the Nick thing makes sense, because now it's like, okay, she's made her choice.
No, I think she's going to the house where Emily is.
Okay.
To be with the other crazy person in fucking Canada. Because she can't go back. She can't go back to Gilead. She cannot go back.
Oh, no. But
But I don't think Nick is out, because Nick went back across the line. He left.
Did he? Okay.
Because he didn't stay there for that. He went back. He just was like, you're on your own, and walked away and left Fred with June.
See, I thought that, but I wasn't sure. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he I don't know if he went back. He left, but that doesn't mean he went back.
See, I saw some fan theory that he's married to Hannah, and that's why he hid the ring. Because in the earlier episode where she brought Nicole to see him, and he put on the wedding ring after she walked away. That would
be a fucked up twist.
Big fucked up twist, but
and I could see them being, seeing the leadership. I could see them being assholes like that.
Right.
Although they don't know. Well, Waterford is not involved in that decision. Lawrence, in theory, could be involved in that decision, but he wouldn't do something like that. But then again, who really knows that Nick is the father of that kid? Not many people know that.
Right.
I don't know. I didn't, like I said, I didn't think of it as he could be defecting, and then somebody in a video I saw mention that, and I was like, because now, how do you explain what happened to Waterford?
Yeah,
if you're Nick, because Nick was the one in charge there, because Lawrence basically handed him off. Nick said the eyes are going to take it from here. So how do you explain this? This is what made me think that, okay, maybe he is defecting, because now his ass is going to be on the line because, oh, your prisoner escaped.
Yep.
And then something happened to him. And this is a high-profile prisoner, so how do you...
Unless it was underhanded moves by Lawrence, because he's been underhanded before.
Well, Lawrence knew it was happening one way or the other. But I would think that the leadership would want to get their hands on him. So somebody's going to have to answer for it now.
Yeah.
And that made me think, okay, maybe this Nick theory might have something to it, because, like I said, you lost your high-profile prisoner right after we got him at the border, and Nick is the one on the line for it. So it's almost like, in a way, he might have to defect, because surely they'll fucking hang him for that. Because I would think that they would have wanted to parade him in front of people, and not just have him get fucking bashed out in the forest.
Yo, they put him down.
Well, when I caught on to what was happening, I love that sick, twisted, sinister shit. So when I caught on to what was happening, I was like, ooh.
When they stopped the truck and they got out in the woods, I was like, oh, I know what's up here.
Oh yeah, me too.
I was like, oh, this is gonna be a boot party for him.
Yeah, and I was thinking to myself, like, is she just gonna do it herself? And then
I knew she wasn't gonna do it herself, because they led up to that in the conversation at the table beforehand, or because they were all sitting around the counter, and Rita was like, yeah, I'm not in on this, but Emily was like, yeah, I'm definitely in.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where they were going with it, and obviously that was it, but I was wondering how it was all going to play out, and then the whistle, and then the whole group, and I was like, oh.
See, what I feel like is there was probably supposed to be 13 episodes, and with COVID, they shortened it.
They had to rush it.
Right, they had to just get it done. And I feel like there's not cutting room floor, but writing room floor.
Yeah,
material.
There was more to it, and they had to kind of shorten it.
Yep, because
I could see that.
It didn't feel abrupt, but there was no lead up to this ending. You know what I mean? It was just like, boom, here we are.
Well, but that's what I was getting at before when I mentioned how her
twist was quick.
I guess evolution isn't quite the right word, but I can't think of a better way to put it. But just the changes in her just in recent times, from the time she got over the border and she was kind of chill, but then once she found out that Waterford was probably going to walk away.
But she didn't find out that Waterford was going to really walk away until the next to last episode. It was in episode 9. And then she went wild in episode 10.
Yeah, but that was when the twist, like, you could see little hints of it.
Yeah.
But that was when you just saw something snap.
Well, the one hint that I got that she was a little unhinged was when that aunt was trying to come into the talking.
Oh yeah.
And she was like, "No, she's coming in here." And then she basically went off on her, and I was like, "We haven't really seen this June at all."
Well, that's what I'm saying. There were like little hints here and there but I mean, truth be told, you go through something like that, of course you're going to be pretty fucking unhinged.
Oh yeah.
Like that's some serious PTSD shit. And I figured, anybody in real life goes through anything close to that, you're not going to be okay for a long time.
Or ever.
So I totally understood that, but it was just, you saw just once she found out, like, she obviously wanted to direct that anger at certain people, like the aunt. And then once she found out what was going on with Waterford making the deal, then everything changed, because then it was just the reality of what was about to happen. And you could see it just made her fucking nuts. Which, again, completely understandable.
Right. I feel like even when she was in, like, when she freaked out on Janine when they were in the milk truck, I was seeing that she was, like, not all there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's been hints of that.
So many options. They could have gotten in one of the fucking Jeeps that was up there. Nobody's checking those Jeeps. And then you didn't have to be in the fucking milk. Like, there were so many options that they could, but whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, I thought the milk train thing was a little weird, but whatever. In the end, like...
I feel bad for my girl Janine.
Yeah, well...
Ended up right back to where she was.
I think that is going to be a major focus of the next season also. That it's going to be a lot of her story with, what's her name?
The other young girl. Yeah.
Because that girl, I think they said that girl was 14.
Yep.
And the shit that she's already been through, you think June is fucking tweaked? Like,
well, see, that was my theory. That was my new theory, like, on how they were going to continue to make, because I heard that they were planning on doing 10 seasons of this, and my thought was that once they tie this thing up with June, whatever way they're going to tie it up, they're going to turn to the new Handmaid's Tale, which would be about
that girl,
that young girl, the other commander's wife that is now a handmaid.
See, I don't know. I wonder, and that's one of the things I worry about with.
But could you write something new that wasn't the exact same thing? And I don't think you could.
But here's the thing: the way I see this, and this is one of the interesting things about this, because one of the things as I started to watch more and more of this, I've been over the years really into a lot of other alternate history stuff. Like, I don't know if you ever watched or heard of the story The Man in the High Castle. It was a series on Amazon, but it was a book. And the book was written by one of my favorite authors, Philip K. Dick, whose work got turned into Minority Report, Blade Runner, A Scanner Darkly.
I mean, I've seen all those movies and TV shows and whatever, but I didn't read the book. Yeah.
Well, The Man in the High Castle is an alternate history of what if the Allied forces lost World War II. So America gets split, like the center is like a DMZ, like the Rocky Mountains basically, and like the East is all run by Germany. So like they show it's in the 50s, and it shows Times Square in the 50s with like all swastikas everywhere. And the West Coast is all run by the Japanese. Crazy shit like that. So there's certain similarities to things like this. So I've always been into that type of shit.
Right.
So I looked into some of the history, because apparently, if you look very closely, there's a few maps that you see on the wall.
I've seen some of the workups on those maps.
Yeah, so it kind of explains a little bit about the colonies and also the North Territories that are kind of in dispute between
U.S.
Canada, like what Gilead. you saw in Chicago.
Yep.
In this last season, stuff like that. So I found that to be very interesting. I love shit like that. So I was just reading a lot about it, and it was pretty cool to see. But I think one of the things that I was thinking about with the show in general, and is really interesting when you talk about the future of the show, is where is this all going to go? Because some of this stuff, like what happened with Waterford, and how he was going to be an informant basically and make a deal. How much of this stuff, what kind of effect is it going to have on the world in that universe? You know what I mean? Because it could basically be the downfall
of Gilead. Technically,
so it made me wonder about that, because if you think of it from the point of view of like what's next, whether it's an adaptation of the Testaments, you know, the other Atwood book that we were just talking about, or whether it's something else, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
So I'm very curious to see where it goes, because in theory, if you do another season, 2 seasons, couple of seasons, you could really write the downfall of that society. Because I don't know exactly what happens in the book, the Testaments. I don't know how it ends up. Whether Gilead actually falls or what happens. I'm actually skimming it right now. Yeah, there you go. If we want to go full spoiler, at the end of that book, Gilead collapses.
That I knew.
Yeah, I'm sure I read it. I just couldn't remember it. But I'm looking at it now. That it all comes from Canada being heavily involved and their elite and.
Well, they basically set that up
right
throughout this whole, basically from season 3 and 4, where Canada was fully in play, basically.
Right.
They've been setting up this whole play.
And I think it's so funny, by the way, that the United States is now just
part of Canada,
Alaska and Hawaii.
Yeah.
That, like, what used to be the powerful United States is now just Alaska and Hawaii.
Yeah, and then war zones along the edges, and that's it.
Yeah, you've got the war zones and Canada, and then you've got what they call the little United States, which is basically the area in Canada where all the people that ran over the border now live. Mm-hmm. But then their only official territory of what still exists as the United States is just the two states that are not part of the contiguous 48.
One of the things that I do like about the show is that, like when Moira got out, and how she didn't even know she had gotten into Canada, because we have such loose borders with Canada. Like, unless it's a road, you could easily wander over the border into Canada. Oh,
sure. And that's what they do with the woods.
Right. And that's what that's where I was going with this, is like that final scene. They were like, you were out here in no man's land. I'm even talking about
earlier in the woods.
Yeah, that too. Trying to get up there. Like, just anytime that you're in the woods fighting again, like, trying to get out.
When they got Waterford in the first place.
Yep.
It was all...
Oh, yeah, I mean... Yo, how dumb is he to follow that dude that far into the woods? Like, if it's me, and you're like, it's right up the road, just follow me, and it ain't but like a mile, I'm like, nah, we're stopping.
You know what's funny? You asked that question, and I asked myself that question, but then I came up with the answer, and it actually relates to a lot of things that we talk about on this podcast. It relates to the simple fact that, much like what we've said about a lot of politicians and a lot of law enforcement and a lot of other things, this is a dude who is so comfortable that he thinks he's untouchable.
Yep, there you go.
And because of that, he doesn't sense danger because he's so insulated and he's so in control of everything that he's a fucking sucker, because it doesn't take much to trick a dummy like that, because he's not thinking at all, because he thinks he can't be touched, plain and simple.
Imagine for a minute somebody's like, "Yo, follow me," and you're driving, and they say it's just up the road.
Yeah, it's just
and
up the road.
No.
And you're going for like 20 minutes. Like, no,
absolutely not.
But he was so lost in his own status, and also had a hard on for whatever deal he thought was going to be made, that it never occurred to him that he might get played. But the same thing happened also because then Gilead was starting to play him too.
Right.
Because much like what we were talking about with where are they going to go, that dude, there was nowhere for him to go but to hang. Because he was played. And side note, by the way,
he knew as soon as they were like, "Yo, we're taking you back to Gilead," he's like, "I can't go back there
fuck. Yeah,
because I'm done."
Yeah, and he knew it because the way they reacted to him earlier, they were already just kind of like
moved on. You're dead to us.
They already let him go. So if they brought him back, they were going to make an example out of him, and that's why I said what I said about the whole thing with Nick, because they don't want that dude disappearing. They want that dude so that they can make an example out of that dude.
Especially since they gave up 22 or so freedom fighters, as they were calling them.
Oh, yeah.
That getting 22 people back and not getting the one person you were expecting.
Exactly.
No good. No good.
But that's why I said something's got to go on with Nick now, because he's the one on paper for that.
Well, Lawrence will be on paper for it too.
No, Lawrence can get away with it because Lawrence
left him in the custody of Nick.
Well, he had no choice in it because he said, "Well, what if I object?"
Right.
Well, it matters if I object. So in the end, he had no control over it, which I'm sure he was fine with. He didn't give a fuck. But
because honestly, I think Lawrence.
Oh, he knew.
Well, he knew, but I think Lawrence had a little thing like mentally for June too. He's been.
You know what? Lawrence is a complicated character because they often refer to him as the architect of Gilead, but it's obvious based on everything that's gone on
that he's not on board with everything. With
his wife and all the other stuff. It's obvious that it's the monster that he created that is way out of control, and he feels nothing but regret now, and it's just trying to keep himself alive. It just went way further than he ever thought it would.
Yep.
And now he's got to play the game because look, he was taking in handmaids, but not
banging them.
Not banging them.
Not banging them.
Which they obviously knew because that's why they pushed the issue on him. So he's protected with that situation. And I don't think he would have done it otherwise. Because, like I said, I think his biggest motivation is just trying to stay alive at this point because he hates whatever ideas he had that turned into this. He fucking hates it now. But how is he going to get out?
Yeah, I mean, he can't leave.
No, he can't. There's no way. Because eventually...
Because even if he had defected when June was like, give me the 38 kids or whatever, and you go with them and say that you saved them, nobody was going to accept that, and he was going to get strung for it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's no way.
So it's either die in Canada or try and make it last as long as possible in Gilead. Yeah.
Well, at this point, that's all he's got. He's fucked, and he knows it. And he's just trying to last as long as he can at this point, and try to keep his wife from getting tortured, which I think is an even bigger motivation, because obviously he cares for his wife, and is trying to protect her from a lot of this shit.
Well, his wife is dead.
Well, I'm saying before his wife.
Yeah, before.
Yeah, before she died. It was obvious.
I think it's funny that he basically struck up a partnership with Aunt Lydia.
Yeah.
Like putting her right back to being kind of in control. But did you notice that she shifted right towards the end and she's not as
Well, because
she, I feel like her and Lawrence will also be the tide that turns Gilead in the end.
Maybe. I feel, and
I hate Aunt Lydia though.
Well, you and I have talked about this before.
Fucking
I want
worst.
to see her get it in the worst way, and I don't mean get it like somebody sticks her. I mean like I want to see her tortured and maimed. I want like what Waterford got.
Way worse. I
want to see her get way worse. I fucking hate her. And it's so funny because I've heard that the actress is probably so the nicest. Ridiculously super nice. And I almost wonder if she's going to get the King Joffrey treatment like Game of Thrones.
That's what I was worried. I said that to someone recently. I said, like, she's going to get Sukaju'd, basically. And, like, she's never going to be able to get out of this.
For those of you that don't know, if you watch Game of Thrones, the kid that played King Joffrey was really young, but the character was just a total and complete asshole. And that kid used to get hassled so much on the street for playing that character that he quit acting. Mm. He was going to college, and while he was in school, he was just getting relentlessly tortured by fans that don't understand
that it's a fucking show.
It's a show and it's not real. And they were just like cursing at him and all kinds of shit when he's just chilling on the street, to the point of where he was finally like, you know what? I'm done with this shit.
What I meant by Sukaju is there was a fighter in the UFC who came in and made a big splash because he won his first 2 fights, and then he could never live that down. And no matter what he did, he was never going to be what everybody thought he was going to be. Yeah. So in her case, even if she is the nicest person, everyone is going to think that she's the fucking worst. And she can never live it down.
Yeah. And I, you know, it's just crazy, but I mean, that character is just so fucking hateable.
It's so bad.
Oh my god.
But the problem is, not the problem. The good thing and the bad thing is, while the character is so reprehensible, her acting is so good.
Oh yeah.
That it translates. Because you could have a character that's written to be an asshole, and it doesn't translate. And that's kind of how I feel about Fred. Like, I don't really particularly like Fred as the actor. Like, I get what's going on, and like he plays it okay, but he's not Aunt Lydia acting.
No,
it's not like I legitimately believe her when she's acting that as that total ass. Like I'm mad at the TV screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, me too. Every time I see her, I'm like, this fucking bitch.
Right. I'm done. I'm done with her.
Get her fucking head split open.
Yo, when Emily stabbed her and threw her over the fucking railing.
Oh, I was cheering.
What was that, season 2?
Yeah.
I think
so.
I was
yes!
Through the roof. I thought that she was gone forever.
Stick her again!
Yo, I don't know how she didn't just stomp her to fucking death.
Oh, man.
But
I was hoping for it.
I should never be sitting around cheering for an old lady to get it, but like she played the part so well that I was so into it that I literally jumped out my fucking chair, bro.
Oh, I get angry just seeing her on my TV.
Yeah, and now anytime you see that lady, you're gonna be like, this fucking lady.
I mean, the only caveat that I can give here is that she's older and she's already had a good long career, because that was the thing that sucked about the kid that played Joffrey. Like, that kid was like
just getting started,
so young. He was just getting started, and like, who knows what he would have done in the acting world. But now he's not doing anything because he's just like, fuck this, I'm out, because too many people are hassling him on the fucking street.
Poor kid.
Yeah. I always felt bad for the kid. And And that character was a fucking dick.
I see. I never watched the show. Wasn't for me.
Man. Oh, I hated it because he was just a fucking snotty little fuck. But he was the king. His mother was the one pulling the strings behind him. But he was just an asshole. And when they poisoned him, everybody was fucking happy as shit because you saw him turn fucking green on screen. And I could practically hear people cheering, like, around the block. That's how hated that motherfucker was. But, like I said,
all right,
like we're talking about with Aunt Lydia.
Serena is right up there with her for me.
Yeah.
But, all right, let me ask you this, because somebody posed the question, who was the most hated person in all of TV that you've ever watched? And for me, they were trying to say that Skylar from Breaking Bad was the worst character ever. And I'm like, she doesn't even hold a candle to Aunt Lydia.
No.
Because that's Walter White's wife.
Right. No,
and she's irritating. She's irritating in the show. Like, anybody who's trying to make you give up that much money is irritating. But it's nowhere near, like, the visceral hate I have for Aunt Lydia. It's not even close.
I would say Lydia and King Joffrey are probably the top two that I can think of for me. I'm trying to think of another one, and I can't come up with anything close. I mean, Skylar White doesn't even show up on my list. And I'm not counting people that I just think were fucking annoying. Because honestly, I always thought Jesse Pinkman was annoying as shit. Like,
he had his moments.
I want to see his head split open a few times.
I loved Walter White.
You know, and there were a few people on Sons of Anarchy also that
I never watched it. I think I watched 3 episodes and was like, this is definitely not for me.
I enjoyed it, although it got a little silly at times. And that's one of those shows, like I was talking about, where they could have ended it a season early. The season before, I think it went 7 seasons, and I think season 6 they made every episode an hour and a half.
That's too much.
And I was like, no. First of all, they should have cut them down to an hour, and they should have wrapped it up in season 6, because it was like treading water. It's just like going slow when you don't need to go slow. And then Game of Thrones was the opposite, where the last season of Game of Thrones was like 100 miles an hour. Like, it was like they were rushing to get it done.
Did you ever watch Weeds?
I watched a couple of episodes. I didn't watch it faithfully. I randomly caught a few episodes and I liked it, but not like I never went back and watched the whole thing.
Obviously, not a serious TV show. But I watched every episode, and the last season covered in 12 episodes, 11 episodes, almost 10 years. So they literally were just jumping from time to time throughout just to like wrap up the whole thing.
Right.
And it just felt very unfinished.
It's a rush job.
Yeah.
Because that's
like,
what happened.
We're done with this.
Yeah, Game of Thrones was very much like that, where the last season was a rush job, and the ending of it was terrible. Terrible. Everybody hated the ending. Because the whole build-up was like, who's going to be the new king? Who's going to be the new king? And then they finally drop it, and everybody's like, what?
Right.
And the whole way it ends with it's just so, it was so bad, and it was so rushed that the I won't say everybody, but the majority of people that I know that watched the show hated the ending with a passion. It wasn't quite as terrible as the ending of Lost, but it was up there.
Again, I did not watch Lost. I watched 3 or 4 episodes, and I knew that it was not for me.
Right.
So I just didn't keep going.
I watched it. I kind of liked it, and then I got more into it, but then the ending was so terrible because it's one of those things where it's one of those shows where they give you all these mysteries and like all these things that you could try to figure out with the numbers and with this and what's the smoke monster and all this other shit. And then at the end, everybody's expecting answers for a lot of these things. And in the end, you know what they said? Fuck you.
Yeah, from what I understand, it ended on a big fuck you.
Oh, it was so... Oh, I was so angry. And I will tell people to this day, because Glenn's wife started getting him to watch it, and I'm like, oh, dude, why are you wasting your time? I'll tell people, don't watch it, because you know what? You're going to get to the end, and you're just going to be like, what the fuck? Because I'm all for shit where, like, they give you these little mysteries to figure out and stuff, little hidden things here and there. Like, that's cool. I like shit like that. Mm-hmm. But don't give me all that shit, and at the end, be like, nah, fuck it. Doesn't matter. We're not answering any of your fucking questions. It was just, it was so bad. It was so bad. And Game of Thrones was the same kind of thing. Game of Thrones built up all this shit, and at the end, you're like, what?
Yeah.
And
I hate when... I mean, I know that sometimes the funding runs out, and you just got to tie the shit up.
Well, that does happen. Because there's been plenty of shows like that where you could tell... Listen, sometimes if you're lucky, they'll know, and they'll write it in a way to wrap it up.
Well, did you watch Shameless? Did you watch Shameless?
I only watched the first couple of episodes of the first season, and that's one of those shows, like what you're saying, where you watch a couple of episodes and it's like, it's not for me. Well, like I hated everyone on that show.
Okay, I watched it all the way through because it was funny to me. Like the whole premise of the show, of it just being a huge shitty family doing shitty things endlessly. It was hilarious. Like I don't think it's like great TV or anything like that. It was just a funny way to waste an hour of a week for 13 episodes or whatever. But they knew going into the last season it was going to be the last season, and they wrote the perfect season.
Yeah,
and it didn't feel rushed.
No, because if you know you can write it a certain way, then it's good. Because you're not much of a sci-fi person. You ever hear of the show V?
No.
Okay. The show originally was in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And then they brought it back again. So V was in the 80s. And I was a big fan. And it was basically aliens come and they look like humans and everything at first is like all peaceful. But then you realize that they're just basically looking to take over, and they're secretly lizards with like fake human skin. Bunch of wild shit, and the 80s thing was kind of silly. They brought it back in the 2000s, and they had little things that tied it to the old show, little nods and stuff. And when they got towards the end of it, it was obvious that they knew that it was getting canceled because they just went buck wild crazy and like started blowing all kinds of shit up and like killing off major characters and stuff because they were just like, well, fuck it, we're going out in a blaze of glory.
Right.
And sure enough, the word got out that they had been canceled, so they must have known that they were getting canceled, so they were just like, let's just run this thing off the fucking tracks. It'd be fucking insane.
Just be wild with it.
Yeah, and it was nuts. But it was cool because it actually wrapped it up.
Right.
With some shows, you don't even get to do that, which really sucks. So they actually had the opportunity to do that, so that's good. But back to Handmaids, I really wonder where they're going to go because, like we started to discuss before, this whole idea of having the sequel novel, like, I don't know, because they could kind of drag it out to that, but I almost feel like the story that they're telling could very easily lead into the end of Gilead.
But could they really get to that? They would need at least 2 seasons to get to the end of Gilead. If they got to the end of Gilead at the end of this next coming season, I would feel like that was fast.
Maybe. it depends on how they do it. I guess that's the real question, because you're already planting the seeds, because you've got, put it this way, let's say that Nick is actually crossing over. Mm-hmm. Which, to me, like I said, when I first watched it, I didn't read it that way at all. But then watching the video that mentioned it, I started to think about it. And then even now, with the discussion that we're having right now, the more I think about it, the more I realize that I think that's his only option, because he's going to be on the hook for Waterford.
Right.
So he's going to have to disappear, because they're going to hang him instead. And it seems like if he's going to do that, then him and June are going to go and do their thing, because June is clearly...
June is in love with Nick.
Right.
June is not in love with Luke anymore.
Yeah, which sucks. Because Luke was the motivation, like I said, for a lot of the things that went on. Luke and Hannah... she
still loves Luke. Like, I think she still cares about Luke, but she is in love with Nick.
She's not the same person either.
Right.
And that sucks for him.
Yeah, because he sat around waiting for her for 7 years.
Yeah.
That's how long it was. 7 fucking years.
No, and it's really shitty, but as I said before, I was always wondering where that was going to go, because it seemed like it was weird. It was... she was kind of riding the line with both of those things for a little while.
Right.
But I guess people change, things change. Sometimes things happen, and like you're not the same person you were, and
you go away for sucks. 7 years basically in the war, because she was in a war for 7 years. You were just not the same person.
Yeah. So I don't know, but again, as far as the Nick thing goes, if he's going to cross over, he's got a tremendous amount of information. I don't know where Lawrence fits into that, because I think at this point, they may look at him as suspect, or they may not. Mm-hmm. He's got plausible deniability, because in the end, it's like, okay, well, the eyes want to take him, so be it. I have no control over that. But again, these guys don't necessarily work with logic. If they want to hang somebody for something, they're just going to fucking do it. So that could very easily be their excuse to jam him up. They're clearly not above jamming people up for shit. So that's an interesting thing to look at. But in the end, I think Nick's card is already punched. Like, he can't go back there, because whether they find Waterford or not, he's the one that's on paper for custody of that prisoner. So he's going to be in deep shit.
The only way he gets away with it is if he kills the guards. If he killed those guards, he could then say that Fred got away, killed the guards. I don't know. That's the only thing.
I think even then they would still hold him accountable. Because, I mean, look at how they usually operate. You think they're going to give a shit? Like, in the end, you're responsible, so you're going to hang for it. Oh, somebody attacked you? Oh, well, sucks to be you.
Should have handled it, bitch.
Yeah, you should have been more careful. So I think in the end, he's got to leave. And after thinking about it, like I said, I think that opens the door for him and June to continue their relationship.
Right.
Which it seems is something they both wanted to do.
Yep. Now, will June leave Luke and take the baby? Or will she leave the baby?
She's definitely leaving the baby, because she made it clear that she just wanted a last moment with her. I think at this point, looking at it and thinking about it,
if she's going to Nick, he's going to want his baby.
No. She's going to Nick, and I don't know where Hannah factors into any of this, but if she's going to Nick, they're going to continue the work that she started. They're going to go fuck people up.
Okay.
Whether that's through the system or more likely, on the underground, because she's got her army. I don't know how that will work, because in theory you could have Nick go back and kind of help them in the underground, but as I was saying before, Nick's card is already punched because he's on the hook for the prisoner. So he's got no choices. His only choice that I see is to turn informant for Canada and work underground in Canada and possibly make some connections and continue to... Because the other thing now is, okay, June got Fred.
Mm-hmm.
That's a wrap. What's going to happen, because Serena is in custody, so she's limited in how she could get her hands on Serena, which ultimately is the goal. But now Serena's got the baby, so that complicates things even further. Which, by the way, here's another theory that I was starting to get into before, and we went in different directions. I don't think it's Fred's baby.
Serena's baby?
Yep.
Who do you think it is?
I don't know. That's the real question. I have no idea. But think about it. That would be some fucking shit, wouldn't it?
It would be some fucking shit.
Yeah. I think it's not Fred's baby. Because the only opportunity that you knew of
was when they were in those people's house right before they got picked up.
Exactly. That's the only time.
And she was pregnant. She was way more pregnant than that would suggest, because that would have mean that they would have had to have been in custody for 3 to 4 months. Well, at least 2 months for her to be not knowing.
Yeah, the timelines can get a little weird.
So fucking fast.
Yeah, it's very hard to keep track of to that level. Like
how long were they actually in custody after they got picked up?
Yeah, like obviously it's long enough because she's heavily showing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard, if you're looking at it before then, it's really hard to work out the timeline.
Right.
I'm sure somebody online has done it. I just haven't bothered to really look that much into it, because you know how these guys are online. Somebody on Reddit or something has worked it out to like the day.
To the exact day.
And is going to talk about the position of the sun or some shit. Like, oh, well, it was spring then, and now it's winter because the sun is in this direction, and whatever. But my theory is it's not his kid. And because remember, he had trouble with previous handmaids.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any kids. So they kind of hinted at times that maybe the problem wasn't him. The problem was wasn't her. It was him. That he was shooting blanks. So if that's the case,
I still feel like he knew he was shooting blanks, because there were times where even he would allude to it, in my opinion.
See, but then if he knew he was shooting blanks, his reaction to her being pregnant would be very different. Wouldn't it?
Unless he just wants to be a dad at this point, and he's fine just pretending.
I don't know. If I knew I was shooting blanks and my woman ended up pregnant,
somebody else popped one off.
There'll be hands.
Yeah, but he's stuck in prison. And that's his only card out.
Yeah, I guess that's a way to look at it too. I don't know, but I think I really think that that's not his kid, and it's a real question of who, because there's a whole story to be told there, because there's got to be some sort of background to it. If it's not his kid, then whose kid is it? Is it some random? Is it somebody that she had a relationship with on the side?
They never even alluded to it at all.
No, but that's one of the second they said that she was pregnant, that was my first thought, that like here comes the swerve where it's not his, and they have never addressed that at all.
Well, because they intimated that she couldn't have one because she had gotten shot that one time in her stomach.
But again, they also hinted that maybe he was the one shooting blanks.
Right.
It's a lot of gun illusions here.
Yeah. Based on my day, I'm not surprised.
Oh man. But yeah, so I think it's not his kid, which doesn't matter now because he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
But that may be a big reveal coming up.
That's not his kid anyway.
Whose is it?
Well, Fred definitely pointed out that the American agent that has been working with him has had eyes for his wife this whole time.
Oh yeah. Oh.
What if that's it?
Could be. It's very possible.
I mean, they never showed anything, but they also could easily do a flashback.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's what's eventually going to happen. That there's going to be a flashback, and you're going to see the story behind that. But I don't know.
I mean, so next season has to obviously have Serena finding out that Fred's dead. Serena having the baby because she was basically 9 months when he walked away anyway.
Well,
got to tie up the Nick's situation.
Hold on. Let's take something and extrapolate directly here.
Mm-hmm.
We see at the end of the episode the mail call with the finger in the ring.
Right. But they never gave it to her yet.
Well, that's my question, because now, do they give it to her? Probably not. Do they tell her? But also, that will tell them that he's dead.
Right.
So, do they do anything with that information?
Don't know.
Because again, that's where... because that doesn't necessarily say that he's dead.
It just says that he's lost his finger.
That could say that he's a hostage, because look, Serena lost her finger at one point.
This is true.
So,
But it was with the ring. It makes a difference. It's not just a finger, it's the ring finger.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean...
And they got that finger.
They could look at it as a ransom situation. They could look at it a million different ways. They won't necessarily, unless they find his body, they won't necessarily see it as he's dead. And depending on who finds that body, they could spin it either way. If Canada finds that body, they don't have to tell Gilead a thing.
Right.
And the same the other way. Gilead finds that body, they don't have to tell Canada shit. So who knows who finds that body, and who knows where events go from there, because that could potentially be two very different paths.
So they never elude... See, that's what I'm saying about... I feel like there's 3 episodes missing. There was no planning phase of how they were going to get to the fucking woods. There was no talk back and forth about anything. It just happened.
I think that was done on purpose, simply because of the added shock value. Because as a viewer,
I mean, it was shocking.
That shit was shocking, and I loved it.
I'm not complaining.
You didn't see it coming, and I'm all for. Like I said, I love that Six Sinister shit, which was all some sick, twisted shit.
You better run.
Multiple levels. Between, like I said, Nick's role in the whole thing, the fact that they met at the border, handed him off, and then took him in the middle of nowhere, and then did him with the crew from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much sick, twisted shit in there. And then June saying, I just want to spend the last couple of minutes with my daughter because she's going on a mission. She's saying goodbye because she's going on a mission. She's going to go split heads. And the shock value of that whole thing is fucking wild, and I love it. I think it's great. I think if they had a couple more episodes, they could have built it up a little more.
Right.
It's a little sudden because the turn happens really quickly, like we were discussing before. But I think that stuff happening in the last episode was always the plan, just because that's the shocking twist.
So,
and that's when you know, that's telling the viewer, this woman is too far gone. She's wild and she can't be tamed.
When at the end of episode 9, where she found out that they were going to let Fred go, and she let it sink in for all of 30 seconds, and then she was outside basically literally yelling that she was going to fucking kill the guy that told her. Like, you could, again, some of the acting in this show is impeccable, and the look on her face, I was like, yo, I don't want to fuck with June. I don't want to fuck with June. She's so far gone.
That was when she's been through so much shit. They finally brought her to Canada and were trying to get her
stabilized.
But that moment right there, and then the entire episode after that,
was just the flip switch, the switch being flipped.
That moment was the indication that she's too far gone. And then all of those events, because when she goes and sits with Fred, dude,
I thought she was going to murk him right there.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, you couldn't watch that and not be tingling, like, thinking, like, shit, what's going to happen here? Like, what's she going to do? Is she going to fucking break the fucking bottle and stick him with it?
I thought that she had some of that. In my mind, I thought that she had some of that stuff that she poisoned the other officers with, and because she was over there playing around with the bottles.
All of those things were flashing through my head. But that's why I say it was written that way, it was planned that way, and it's masterful writing, because they've already indicated at the end of the last episode that she's been trying to get stable since she came to Canada. She's not stable.
At all.
And she's like teetering. So there she is with Fred, and all the history and all the shit, and you're sitting there waiting for that moment. You're waiting for that moment. And that moment never happens.
And then
you're sitting there blue-balled, and then it continues and continues, and then at the end you get that payoff. You get that money shot, because it's way bigger than you ever imagined. Because if she would have killed him in the cell, that would have been one thing. But this is so much more.
Well, she would have gotten in trouble. The key to the killing is that they killed him in what is considered no man's land, so it's no one's jurisdiction, so you can't even get in trouble for it. Where if she had killed him in the cell,
she would have gotten jammed up for it.
Right.
Absolutely. But that's all part of it. But that's that whole ride of that last episode. Because it really is peaks and valleys. It's like you're anticipating, you're waiting. It's like a horror movie. It's like you're waiting for that kill. You hear that noise. Oh shit.
Nope.
But then it's just a cat in the corner.
Yep.
Or it's a fucking mouse moving around or something. And then the big kill finally comes. But it's later. Like, that whole thing was just a red herring and nothing happened, just for the big payoff to come later.
When I loved the shot, the quote unquote cinematography of when they were laying that beatdown on Fred, and they had all done a circle with their flashlights, and it's like hearkening back to them having their hoods and always putting them down and always working as a team, especially and doing the circle. And it's like they couldn't even pull themselves out of what they knew, because they all went right back into where they were.
Yeah, that's I love that symbolism, because sometimes certain shows will get a little stupid with symbolism and it gets annoying. Because Sons of Anarchy definitely got guilty of that later on, especially in the last couple of episodes of the last season. Their symbolism was just so over the top that it's just painful. It's like, come on, you don't have to hit me over the head with the fucking thing, for Christ's sake.
Right.
But this was just right, where that symbolism is there, but it's not murdering you with it, but it's strong.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was meant to be that way. And by the way, there's so many little moments over the course of this show.
Oh, dude.
It's just
constantly little tiny things.
Because I actually was thinking about it because one of the videos that I watched today was about some of the behind the scenes shit, including the effects. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about DC, where you see Lincoln's head is gone at the memorial.
Yep.
And where you see the Washington Monument with the thing going across to turn it into a cross.
Yep.
And how they added more handmaids to that scene to beef it up and stuff. And it's just, you sit there and if you really absorb some of it, it's so fucking wild. It's like the scene where they were going to hang the handmaids in Fenway.
Well, let's go back to just what you were talking about, where they had basically 1 million handmaids out there for that thing in front of the Million Handmaid March.
Yeah.
Yes, and Fenway looked wild as a broken down stadium.
Yeah, and like I was telling you with the alternate history shit that I'm into a lot, I love shit like that because I'm a sucker for like post-apocalypse shit too.
Mm-hmm.
Where even Waterworld was stupid, but it was pretty cool to see some of that crazy shit.
Right.
And a lot of these other movies that are like that, where you see ruined New York, Escape from New York, or a lot of these other movies, and of course, I mean, I've talked about it being one of my favorite movies of all time, Planet of the Apes.
Mm-hmm.
The end of Planet of the Apes, where you see the Statue of Liberty, and you're like, fuck. If you don't know now, by this point, it's been spoiled for most people because it's so iconic, because it came out, 50 years ago at this point. But if you don't know, and you see that twist, that's a fucking mind blower for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I love imagery like that. I love seeing weird shit like that. Like if you ever watched the Omega Man with Charlton Heston, where they end up in the LA Coliseum,
which
same
the
kind
Omega
of shit.
Man is based on. Well, not the Omega Man, but what is it? The movie with Will Smith.
I Am Legend.
I Am Legend is based on the same.
Yeah, it's all based on the same. Because I remember we talked about it on one of our earlier episodes. One of our first episodes, really. There's 3 movies that were all based on the same source material.
Right.
Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price.
Mm-hmm.
I Am Legend with Omega Man with Charlton Heston, which came out in the 70s, and I Am Legend with Will Smith, which are all based on, I think the original book was called I Am Legend. Yeah, Richard Matheson was the author, who, by the way, if I recall correctly, but let me confirm this, he had some other stuff that was adapted also, and I'm trying to double check. Yeah, he had The Shrinking Man, which became The Incredible Shrinking Man.
Mm-hmm.
Hell House, which was The Legend of Hell House, which came out in the 70s. What Dreams May Come, the movie Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeve.
Right.
Was based on another story of his, A Stir of Echoes.
Which was a great movie, the original one. The remake I didn't watch, the second version. But from what I understand, the second version is almost an identical thing to the first one, just with different actors.
Right. And he had a few things that were also... He had a few stories that were turned into episodes of The Twilight Zone.
Okay.
And then he also wrote other episodes of The Twilight Zone, including Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, which of course...
Which is one of the most important ones.
Exactly. Which was also in the Twilight Zone movie.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you that one was one of the ones that really fucked me up. And it made me, when I was a kid, nervous of going on a plane.
Yeah.
Not as an adult, like, obviously, it was just whatever. Yeah. But as a kid, it was just like, yo, come on. I'm not sitting on the wing. I'm not sitting anywhere near the wing.
You don't have to tell me about shit like that damaging you, because my dad took me to see Jaws when I was a kid, and to this day, I don't fuck with ocean.
Not going in fucking ocean, because I'm a
I mean, a boat, okay, but like, I'm not swimming in that shit. It's not happening. Unless it's a nice fucking pool. I'm not swimming in no lake, no river, nothing.
Yeah, I'm not really a lake or a river guy.
Give me a pool with extra chlorine where I can see the fucking bottom. That's it. I'm not fucking with... My dad took me to see Jaws when I was a kid, and that shit fucked me up.
Between Jaws, Stand By Me, and them jumping in that, like, kind of lake-ish creek and getting leeches all over themselves, and, like... just a couple other situations. Did you see the episode of Creepshow? I think me and Ren talked about it on the show one time. How like there was like a thing in the lake that was killing people. Like that fucked me up too.
That was in one of the Creepshow movies.
Yeah, that's what I said. Creepshow too. Yeah. Just like there's a series of things that I saw as a kid that make me not want to go in random bodies of water.
Oh no.
I'm mostly a pool guy, but if I go to the shore, I'll wade in up to like my knees, maybe up to my hips, but I'm not going all the way in. When I was young, I would go all the way out. I'd go out as far as they would let me go. And now I'm like, what was I thinking? Who told me that this was a good idea?
I'm not doing any of that shit. It's not happening.
And like my friends, I have some friends that surf, and I'm just like, yo, bro, nope.
Yo, do your thing, man. Do you? But I'm out of any of that shit. That's not happening. But no way. I can't fuck with water to this day because of that shit. So you don't have to tell me about childhood trauma.
Yeah.
That movie was enough for me. And then Jaws 3D. Almost made me want to not go to the movies ever again because that shit was garbage. But then Deep Blue Sea redeemed it. Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I don't remember it like
the scene where Samuel L. Jackson dies is one of the greatest.
I unfortunately do not remember it vividly, but I know I watched it.
Oh, dude, when you see
Should
it,
I go back and watch?
I mean, if you look on YouTube, you'll find the scene because it's just so over the top, ridiculously funny. Because he's in the middle of a speech, and all of a sudden the shark comes out pops out from behind. I just
yeah.
And fucking
I do remember that now. It's ridiculous.
It's so fucking great. It was totally unexpected, and I spoiled that too. The tough shit. That movie's old. If you haven't seen it,
fuck you then.
Spoiler. Spoiler time is over for that one. Come on now. But yeah, that's one of the greatest ridiculous moments in movie history. But anyway, so back to Handmaids. Like I was saying before, there's many different ways that they can go with this thing. As far as Serena goes, I'm real interested in seeing where they go with that. Because now, there's another thing with her.
Well, she can't go back to Gilead.
That's what I was just going to say.
She can't go back.
She goes back, she's fucked for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So she's going to fight like hell to stay in Canada. But what good is she to Canada?
None, really?
Like, except for, like, the human rights part of it. But here's the other thing. You know, June's ultimate target is her, too.
Of course.
So how does that go? And then, of course, you have the whole story, like you mentioned before, of what's still going on over there with Lawrence and with Lydia and what's her name, the young girl.
The new young girl. I can't remember her name off the top.
I'm blanking out on it also.
Commander Keyes' wife.
Yeah.
Who was definitely not old enough to be his wife.
Right.
I do love the fact that she was slowly poisoning him. That was such a great twist. That
Esther Keyes was her name.
And like the fact that...
And by the way, she really is 14.
Really? Okay. I mean, she looked young, so I'm not that surprised.
Yeah, well, you know how it is. They try to get these girls to play young, but sometimes they're older.
Yeah.
You know, like 21 Jump Street. But, or even Saved by the Bell.
Or Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, I mean...
Because there were characters that were playing, like, teenagers in Ferris Bueller that were in their mid-20s. Or... Daniel LaRussa was 26 playing a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old. Like, come on.
Well, oh, God, what was the show? God damn it. Fred Savage.
Oh, Wonder Years, yeah.
I forget if it was that show or one of those other type of shows where like one of the people on that show was playing a teenager and was like 30.
Oh well, that was
might have been 90210 also.
No, well, there was that one, but there was also Dawson's Creek. There was one actress in the show who was playing a teenager, and she was 29. I'm like, come on. You couldn't find somebody that was even close?
I mean, that stuff may fly on the hub, but not here. Come on.
Right. And you're right. Somebody, the one girl, I think in both shows, it was somebody named Andrea, but one of the girls on 90210 wasn't just like 21 playing a teenager. She was like 28.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, come on. I can see that she's somebody's mother. Like,
yeah, come on.
She's not a teenager. Stop it.
It's like the hub. It's like, that's nobody's stepdaughter. Come on.
Right.
She's like 40.
That's not your mother.
Yeah, just because you slap some young-looking clothes on her doesn't make her a teen. Stop it.
Ridiculous.
But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff in play in a lot of different directions. With Serena, with Esther Keys, like we mentioned, because now she's a handmaid and she's rolling with what's her name?
With Janine.
Yeah, with Janine. So you've got whatever the two of them are up to, and you also got to wonder, like, now, what's the dynamic now as far as the Marthas, because they always had their little underground thing going too. Can they make moves? What kind of moves can they make?
Well, they already alluded to the fact that they can't really do much anymore because June fucked them all over.
Right.
She fucked that whole situation up, got a bunch of people killed, and like basically shut down their ability to do anything.
Right, but now, who knows what the environment is like now? I mean, there's so many variables here. They might crack down because of the Waterford thing, or they might loosen up because they're too busy paying attention in other directions.
Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna have to find out.
There's many
the worst
different
part
ways.
is we got to wait a whole year to find out.
I know. That shit kills me. I hated it with Westworld. I hated it with a lot of these other shows. Same shit. It's like, ugh.
I enjoyed this ride of the last month and a half or month or so of watching. Like I was like, anytime I had a few hours or even an hour to just grab an episode, I was 100% like focused on the show, not on my phone, sure. None of that stuff, just like watching the show, taking it all in. But now I'm like, damn it, I should have waited until this whole series was over so I could just
year.
Right. So I could have just been unaware of what was going on, and binged the whole thing all at once.
Yeah, just knocked it all out instead of getting
now
most of the way there, and now
I got blue balls waiting to find out the end. So have you watched Ozark?
Yes.
Yo, that show is coming back soon-ish, like in the next month or two, I think.
I'll say this, that's another show that you really got to wonder where the fuck that show is going to go with the way the last season ended.
Right, and this is the last season.
Yeah, because that last minute of that last season was just, whoa, where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah. My thing with Ozark is that, unlike The Handmaid's Tale, they're going to drop all the episodes at once. And I'm going to blast through it. Because that's just... See, what you don't get from me is that if I had the option, I would just sit down and watch it all in a row and not even sleep. I would just stay up all night.
Oh, I've done that too.
It's just like, whatever.
If I'm home alone and I don't have somebody bugging me, are you coming to bed? If I don't have that, like...
Just stay up and watch.
I'll blaze all night, just fucking go.
Right.
Because I've done it a million times before.
Yep. So
I mean, I did it with Handmaids to a point because I was, I had to squeeze it with work, but like working from home a couple of days a week, it's like, okay, as long as I wake up at 9 o'clock and and sign in. Like, unless I have a meeting or something, like I can just go right back to bed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll stay up until 2:00. That, or I'll just sit there and start watching a couple of episodes and just get so into it, and it's like, oh, it's only 1:00. I could squeeze another one in.
We could do one more. We'd do one more after that too. Whatever, fuck it.
Damn, that was too good. I can't go to bed yet. And then suddenly, it's 3:30.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about with *Handmaid's Tale*,
yes,
is the symbolism that they did when she was still at Fred's house, the original house.
Okay.
Specifically in her bedroom. Did you notice that they stuck her with a desk, but she's not allowed to write or read?
I did notice that, actually.
Did you notice that there was a spot where there should have been a mirror on the wall, and there was an outline of a mirror on the wall, but no mirror?
That I did notice also.
Because they don't want they don't want you to be vain.
Yeah, I think at one point they kind of drew a little attention to that.
Right. Like, there were just so many little things in that room that made you go, huh. Like, there was no lock on her bedroom door.
Right, that I know.
No privacy at all. You are here because we choose for you to be here.
Yeah.
When they took all the stuff out of the room and just left her with a mattress on the floor, as a pregnant woman, fuck, that was rough.
Oh, I mean, listen, if you want to go into rough, there's so much in this whole series that's just so rough. I started to refer to it as torture porn because so many things in the show, like just when you think you've seen some shit,
and then they just hit you with some more shit.
Then you see them marching the kids with Down syndrome away off camera, and I'm like, fuck. That is fucked. And they never beat you over the head with it, and they're never just put it right in front of your face, but they show you enough to know, fuck, like, it's so fucked up. It's so bad. And just, I mean, I gotta give them points for creativity, but some of the shit is so fucked up, like this thing with the fucking pool and the fucking chaining the fucking ball to their leg.
Oh, yeah.
Dude. Like that shit, and like the shit where they have them, and it, but because the other crazy thing in this, like I said, is this is where it gets my post-apocalypse thing going, is where here they are in a pool that obviously used to be like a diving pool in like a college or something, and now they're using it for shit like this. And like the Fenway thing, and like they have like the scenes where they show the girl chained to the thing on the ceiling, and you could see like the basketball paint, so it used to be like a gym, and now they're using it as like a big cell.
Yep.
Shit like that. Like, it's all so fucked. And it's all things like you could see that this is all like remnants of the old world, and now it's been repurposed for this fucked up shit.
Repurposed for hell.
Yeah,
literal hell.
And it's just crazy. There's so much of that, and it's just insane. And that's one of the things that really blows my mind, and it's visually stunning because it's there to show you. It's like, it really is like post-apocalypse, but it's not like apocalypse, like, because you don't get a lot of like apocalypse types things that are a civil war.
Yo,
there are some, but not as many.
When they, all right. So speaking about the couple going into the pool, when they finally flash back or forward or whatever, and Fred ends up at that girl's house or talking to her father or something, and it turns out that the father turned them in. Yes. That shit was fucking wild to me.
That was wild.
Like, I was like, yo, Stockholm Syndrome right there.
Yeah.
There's no way you could get me to turn my kid in on that.
But that's how crazy that shit is. And by the way, speaking of what I was talking about with the imagery and just past places and stuff like that, where she ends up in what was the newspaper offices, and you just see all the holes in the wall where they just basically lined them up and shot all of them.
Yep.
Like, that's some really, really, really fucked up shit.
Yep.
And to see her, like, try to process that and deal with that.
Well, see, at first, I thought that she ended up back in her old job. That's where I thought
that was my first thought also, and then I realized that it didn't match up. But it was a newspaper office, and they obviously lined them up and shot everybody.
I feel like if she wasn't pregnant, she could have existed in that location forever.
Yeah, as long as she was getting some sort of supplies.
Some supplies delivered.
Yeah.
She could have just lived there forever, off the radar. Nobody was coming in there. Nobody was going out.
No, I agree. But
the pregnancy thing complicated that.
Yeah, definitely. But that's another example of those things, like the old world and the repurposing of shit. And it's just and I love shit like that.
Right. Okay, so when she went to that house and she was hiding out and she almost shot Serena and Fred.
Yeah.
And she was still pregnant, but she was about to have the baby, basically. Mm-hmm. I loved and hated at the same time, because I was like, you fucking idiot, when she went into the fucking garage finally and she tried pressing the button like the electric was just gonna open the fucking garage door. I'm like, yo, you idiot, that's not gonna work. But obviously they needed to do that because in that stressful situation, that's the first thing you're gonna think. Let me push this fucking button.
Yeah, you don't think about
no electric.
It's just going back to your brain goes back to the old way.
Yep. And I knew she wasn't really getting out of there in that car.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Those were like, it's not like the garage door in Ewing Township where I live, where it's some piece of shit garage door that you could just drive through. Those are like real ass garage doors.
Oh yeah, no, she wasn't getting through that shit. But that's I'm always fascinated by stuff like that, where you see, like I said, remnants of the old world, like Escape from New York, where he lands the glider on top of the Twin Towers.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's a lot of that stuff. You have the twist at the end of Planet of the Apes, but the second movie of the Planet of the Apes series from the 70s was beneath the Planet of the Apes, and they end up roaming through what they call the Forbidden Zone, which is actually New York City, hundreds of years after a nuclear attack. So they end up walking through the remains of like Subway and like St. Patrick's Cathedral and I think Grand Central Station, bunch of stuff. So it's crazy shit like that. And I love that stuff. Like that, that stuff is crazy to me, but it's cool. And being a sci-fi guy like I am, I love stuff like that. So even though Handmaid's Tale is a bit different from what you would usually see, because it's not an apocalypse like in the sense of like nuclear or like a virus or like a zombie outbreak or something. It's the aftermath of a civil war that never went well. They've never fully explained the colonies, but I think that was more nuclear waste and not necessarily
that's
actual nuclear bombs. But I could be wrong. I don't know. They've never.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And maybe they will at some point.
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of nuclear stuff because you do see the colonies in the show, and you see them displaying, symptoms of radiation sickness, which is a whole fucked up. You want to talk about fucked up stuff, like that whole thing with that is really fucked
that
up
whole
too.
thing is just insane.
Yeah. So, but once again, torture porn. It's like they give you such sick, twisted shit in this show. I'm amazed this show is as popular as it is just because
it's so fucking twisted.
So fucked up. It's so torture porn. It's like there's so many things that are just like, some of it is like obviously it's not the same type of thing, but it's almost like Saw level in that they're creating shit. They're creating these things just to be fucked up.
Yeah.
These different methods of torture and death just to fuck these people up. Because what do you think they would have done to Fred?
Oh, they would have. Well, he would have been on the wall.
He would have been on the wall, but what would they have done to him before they put him on the wall?
Unimaginable things.
Oh, forget it. Forget it. They would
shit.
have done,
I could never even come up with.
Yeah. Yeah, and they would have done it to make an example of him. So it's the same kind of shit, and it's just it's crazy that something so twisted can be so popular and win awards and shit, because there's some serious shit that's like borderline psychotic. Like, I don't know if I could come up with something. Like, I'm pretty crazy and I have my twisted moments, but this shit is way beyond my imagination. A lot of this shit, it's just so nuts. And listen, it would be fucked up. We would be fools to not mention this fact that we have talked about privately for sure. We're really not that far from this shit.
No, okay. So the first season, I was thinking to myself, this is plausible. But then as the seasons go on and they're writing it with the knowledge of what's going on in the world right now, they're weaving in things that are going on to make it even more plausible.
Oh, yeah.
And you're 100% on that it's not so far off the beaten path that a lot of this could happen. Just some of the laws passed against women in the past couple months in various states make it so much closer and plausible to what's going on in the show being what's going to happen here. We need to all really take a deep look and see if that's where people really want to head. And I'm sure that the majority of people don't want to head that way.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the problem. And I actually had a family gathering recently where we were discussing some of this stuff. What's happening now in America on a couple of different fronts is this. America's population, the normal people, are leaning, I won't necessarily say progressive, but leaning more liberal in a lot of places. And what's happening is that Republicans are realizing that, and that's why they're doing all these things that are voter suppression. That's why they're passing these laws in different states to limit voting, because they realize they can't win. So the only way for them to win is to change the game as far as the people that can come and vote, and make it limited, because less people vote, it helps them. Less people of certain demographics vote, it helps them.
Right.
And what it comes down to, and I'll tie this in a different way that brings us closer to Handmaid's in a second, is that it's Republicans grasping because they're losing their grip on this country. And how that ties into Handmaid's is that the same thing is happening with religion also. You've got less people that go to church now than probably ever. And they recognize this also. And you'll find in a lot of places, a lot of those people that are in the church are in with the Republican Party. They donate heavily.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also because the Republicans will help them continue to run things financially the same way. because a lot of the more liberal voices are talking about, well, why don't we start taxing the churches? Because churches don't pay taxes. So, of course, they're going to side with the Republicans because the Republicans are going to continue to protect them on the financial front.
Right.
So, again, you've got people losing power and grasping and clutching and trying to hold on to it for dear life because they know that it's slipping away. And that's what's happening, like I said, with the Republicans, and that's also what's happening with the church and with religion in general. And the two go together because that's where you get into a lot of things when it comes to women's rights and abortion and things like that. The majority of people who oppose abortion, if you ask them why, their answer will be in a religious direction.
Right. And that's kind of the premise of
Gilead. That's right, exactly, because that's why we're not far from it. Because, again, the reality is that religion and right-leaning people in power are grasping and trying very hard. And if you follow the show, you know that there were some things that they basically planned this all out to take over. Mm-hmm. They had what was a terrorist attack, and they blamed it on other people, but it left a big hole, and they ran in and took that opportunity and basically took over the country. And they get into a little detail about it, and I've read a bit online that kind of extrapolates from there. There was an attack on Washington, D.C. Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of members, I don't know exactly how many members of Congress were killed. The president suffered serious injuries and died later. He did not die immediately. So take that and think about January 6th and think about how close they were to getting their hands on people in Congress. It should scare the shit out of them.
But they wrote that situation before January 6th. It's not like they backed into that. They wrote that situation in season 2, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Before season 2, technically. But they flashed back to it in season 2.
Yeah. Well, you figure season 2 aired when?
2018? 2019?
Yes. Season 2 aired April to July of 2018, which means they had to film it considerably before that, probably in 2017. So you're talking about 4 years before they...
Talking about an insurrection on Washington.
Right. And that was the setup for the takeover, because this group, which you could look at QAnon, you can look at any of these other groups. This group happens to be...
Is it life imitating art?
I mean, no, it's something that...
Well, what I mean by that is, do you think that somebody that watched the show was then like, we need to do that?
No. I don't think they were motivated by the show necessarily. I think this was going to happen sooner or later, no matter what. I think these people were motivated by a lot of people on the right and enabled by a lot of people on the right, including that big orange prick. And, I mean, this shouldn't surprise anybody. But, in season 1, because I'm looking at the recaps, at the end of season 1, episode 1, they're watching June and Luke witness the Capitol building and the White House being attacked on television.
Right.
So think about January 6th and think about how it was within a couple of minutes that they rushed those senators and people in Congress out of there before other people with weapons started rolling through there. It was a matter of minutes. Count Mike Pence is one of those guys also.
Yep.
But instead of QAnon or whatever, if you don't follow the full story, there was a group called the Sons of Jacob, which were motivated by religion, and they were basically getting together behind the scenes this whole plan. And that was how Gilead came into being. That attack on DC happened, and then they went in there and filled that power void and took over everything. But they were probably, and they haven't revealed this, but I'm sure eventually it'll come out that they were planning this years prior. So,
I mean,
none of this stuff is out there. None of this stuff, all this stuff is really scarily close to something that can realistically happen. The only thing, by the way, that I'll point out that is different on this show, because I'm sure you probably picked up on this also, is the racism doesn't exist on the show, at least not that we've seen.
It's not as outward.
We did see a black commander.
Yep. But we don't see a lot of black commanders, but there are black commanders.
Right.
I did see one Asian commander at some point.
Right. And none of them, at least that we've seen, have been treated any differently.
Right.
My understanding, by the way, is that the book is very different.
The book is very different, and the first movie is the movie is different.
Okay.
Because they tried to pair up a black handmaid with a household, and like the aunts were like, we can't send her there. They've already requested no black, no minorities or whatever, or something like that. Basically, like, racism does still exist here, but in the show, I read or heard an interview with Elizabeth Moss saying that they intentionally took racism out of the show.
I figured if it didn't exist, they had to go out of their way to do that. And I kind of figured that anyway, just because of Moira's character.
Well, Moira is a co-writer, co-producer on the show, which Samira Wiley.
Yeah, who most people know from Orange is the New Black.
There are a number of people in this show from Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
Janine was in Orange is the New Black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a few of them. But anyway, that was the big difference, and I wanted to point that out because I have not seen, and it looks like they purposely omitted that as opposed to the from the source material to here. But that's really the only difference, because as we know in reality now, racism is a big part of it. So that would be one big difference. But other than that, all this stuff, I mean, yeah, the logistics of it might be like, I don't necessarily see them setting up the whole handmaid situation necessarily and all that stuff, but who knows? It's less religiously motivated in real life right now.
Mm-hmm.
And more, I guess, class motivated and financial motivated, and race, because that all factors into it. So I think if it were to really happen, it would be less religion and more those other things. But other than that, this shit could certainly happen.
Easily.
Very
easily happen.
So that's a scary thing to take out of this show. But it's reality, and if you don't believe that, January 6th should
solidify
tell you otherwise. So I think it'll be very interesting to see where they go. Like we were discussing, there's a lot of variables here with Nick, with June, and Hannah now, because that's really a question mark now, because that was the main motivation all this time,
was to get her child back.
Right, to get her child back and get back to Luke, and now Luke looks to be off the table, which makes the Hannah thing even more strange.
Right. So, if she gets Hannah back, does she chill out, or is she literally just off the ranch?
I think,
because right now, half of her, a third of her anger has been nullified. She killed or was involved in the killing of Fred.
Right.
Serena is next, and getting her child back. Those are the three things that need to be completed for her mission to be done. So if Serena dies and she gets Hannah back, the only other thing is what's going on with Nick.
Well,
and Nick will be involved in getting Hannah back, if that happens at all.
He may not be able to now.
Yeah, because she's out off in Colorado, as he says, or so he says.
Well,
and as you've intimated that he may be up Schitt's Creek due to the shit with Fred.
Yeah, I think he has to be. I think it would be silly for him not to be.
The only other option is if he said he killed him himself.
No, because then he's definitely fucked, because who told you to make that call? And if he did that himself, he would have brought the body to them. They're going to find him hanging and be like, what the fuck happened?
Unless Nick goes and gets the body himself.
Yeah, but with the injuries, it's already too far gone.
I don't know.
It's already way too far, because if they look at that body, they're going to know what happened.
Oh, they're going to know. It's impossible not to know.
He wasn't defending himself. They fucking hanged him.
Yep.
So he's already, to me, he's got no options. He's got to be in Canada. There's no way. There's no other way, because in the end, he's responsible no matter what. And it looks like June has made this choice. So your other weird dynamic is, I don't think he can help get Hannah. So how does she get Hannah? That's number one.
Lawrence.
Number two, she gets Hannah, but now she's bringing Hannah back, and
not to Luke.
Well, I don't think she would deny Hannah from Luke, but now it's not. You're no longer reuniting that family.
Right.
That family is done.
It's broke.
And by the way, I think we all know before this thing is over, some of these people are going to die.
Oh, they have to.
And I think
more people have to die.
I think in the end, it's very likely that Nick is going to die.
It's possible.
Serena is definitely going to die.
Oh, if Serena doesn't die, I'll be flabbergastedly surprised.
I think that's going to be the big one, because you get these characters. Because by the way, talking about characters that they're hated, so many people hated not just Joffrey on Game of Thrones, but they hated Cersei, his mother, who was the one orchestrating all this shit. And when she finally died, people were loving it because people were waiting for her to get it.
What if
she was such a bitch?
What if Nick is the father of Serena's baby too?
That was a thought that I had. It's not impossible, certainly. But the question is, if she doesn't think that, maybe she did that as a way. The question is the motivation. Mm-hmm. Because if she thinks that Fred has been shooting blanks all this time, then maybe she wanted somebody to plant the seed. But then how does that play out long term? She's not a spur of the moment.
Just throwing ideas out here, man.
She's very calculating. So if she did that, she had to have some sort of plan. Because she's very calculating. You see that over the course of the show.
For sure.
So she wouldn't just do it without some sort of motivation for doing it. Whether it was to embarrass Fred, even internally, like maybe nobody else, everybody would think that it's his kid, but deep down he knows, Mm-hmm. So maybe she could hold that over him, but now that's out. Or maybe she was with that security guard. The question is not just who the father is, but what that relationship is.
Right.
Because that will be a big reveal. Or we could be wrong, and it really is Fred's kid.
Fred's baby. Yeah, could be Fred's kid.
Right. Which would be surprising at this point, honestly. I think it would be more surprising that it is his kid.
I think what would be more surprising is that if Nicole is actually Fred's kid, and they utilize the new baby to test Nicole and to find out that they're sisters or brother and sister or whatever it happens to be.
See, I could see that happening where they find that they have the same, some of the same DNA, but then it's a question of whose is it? I could see that reveal.
They have the finger.
I could see that reveal happening first, and then the surprise twist being that Nick is father of both of them.
Could be,
because I could see that being a suspense thing.
Well,
the big twist that they hit you over the head with.
The thing is, Luke is not that child's parent, and if June runs away and leaves that kid and she's nowhere to be found, then that leaves a situation of, is this child in the right parent's care? And then Serena can petition to get the DNA tested, because then she can prove that her husband is the father of the child by taking the DNA of both babies.
Well,
and testing it and seeing if they match.
But she knows that Nick is the father, so if
she knows that Nick hit it, but Fred was hitting it too.
That's true, but she wouldn't want the DNA on her kid if she knows that it's not Fred's. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But that may be the twist, where it may not be her that asks for the DNA.
Mm.
But I could see that. Wow, yeah, that's something. I could see that being how it goes down, where that would be the surprise reveal of who the father is of Serena's kid.
Right.
Because somebody...
Does that get into jump the shark territory, though?
I wouldn't immediately say. It depends on
definitely,
how it
I feel like
the story.
I have loved the show up to this point, but again, I watched it in a short amount of time. But they are definitely dangerously close to a shark jump, and they need to tread carefully on how they put this next season together to avoid me going, come on. you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, I think another thing here, there's so many variables to this, because now...
You already know that Mega Hater has already hated on this show online.
Well, yeah.
And he's not wrong that June should have ended up on the wall already. But Nick and Lawrence have been saving her ass the whole time.
Yeah.
That is the only reason why she didn't.
And let's be honest, because this is a twist in the show that a lot of people kind of overlook. One of the things that she has going for her is the fact that these people are so desperate
for babies,
for fertile women, that the fact she's the only one, it seems, that actually uses that.
Mm-hmm.
That she knows they need that uterus. So she can push the issue and they can torture her, but the last thing they're going to do is kill her because they desperately need her.
Well, that's kind of the point that they got to with Janine. Right at the end, they were just like Lydia wasn't even going after her, really, when she came back from her, escape to Chicago.
Right.
Because they need her to make a baby, and they know that she can make a baby.
Exactly. And it's fucked up. But, like I said, I think June is really the only one who is actually...
fully exploiting that.
Fully exploiting it, because she's flat out taken that and been like, motherfucker, you need me.
What you gonna do about it, bitch?
It's wild. But I think just because of the way things are structured, you don't see many people challenging that, and she's the one.
Yeah. When they were in when the train came and they did the escape, and she had Lydia down, I was like, tase her ass. Tase her ass. Do it. Do it. And she didn't fucking do it. And by not doing it, that's what got those people killed.
Yeah.
If she had laid Lydia out,
for it.
Lydia would have never been yelling.
Yep.
And that the guard would have never ran back and started shooting.
Yeah.
Because they could have got away. They could have got away, but she was too nice to jerk off fucking Aunt Lydia and let her get off scot-free.
I'm still hoping.
Yo, she didn't even put hands on her.
I'm still hoping
somebody just
that
puts
Lydia
hands on.
Gets it so bad, so horrible, so disgusting. I'm hoping she finds a way to slice her in half.
As a human being, there is no way that if I was in that situation with Aunt Lydia that I would not have put my hands all over her.
Oh my god. And not in a sexual way.
No.
Completely in a violence way.
Oh yeah.
I would have hit her
woman on woman.
Every weapon available. Every blunt object available. Holy shit. But I don't know. I think there's a lot left to see. It'll be very interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yep.
And like I said, I think you're onto something with the
baby
with
thing,
the DNA and the baby thing.
That's like the only thing that I can think of that they can really press forward on, other than her focusing on killing Serena and maybe trying to get A, back to Nick again, B, get Hannah. Like, those are only three things that are sitting out there.
I'll throw this out there, and this will be my last thought so we wrap this up. I think another thing, because we're talking about roles, because I think the political side of this is a big part of the story. Because they were going to use Fred as a witness, and then they threw him to the side, and they made the exchange for him with the 20 or whatever it was, women.
Mm-hmm.
The determining factor is where these people fall in the political scheme. Because if Nick can't go back to Gilead, it's not going to happen. So does that mean that he ends up in Canada? Is Canada going to use him? What does Canada do now that Fred's dead? They don't have to do anything because it wasn't their prisoner. They handed him over. Gilead fucked up.
Right.
But that's why I say Nick is going to be held accountable. But where does June fall into this? Because June has already done some stuff with Canada and helped facilitate this deal. But now, if they know that Fred's dead, it's easy to put two and two together and say, well, it looked like maybe something happened, especially if she comes and brings Nick. So there's a lot of politics in play here right now. How does Gilead react now that this thing happened with Fred? Will they somehow try to blame Canada? Blame Canada. Even though it's obviously their fault. He was in their custody. So There's so many things going on here. All these deals and these back-end deals that are negating other deals. So the big question is who is on the board and what is their role right now? What is June's role with Canada? What is Nick's role with everyone? What is Serena's role going to be now that her husband is off the table? How are they going to view that baby now? Gilead is going to want their baby.
Oh, Gilead wants that baby.
So that's another thing that is in play there as well. Because Serena won't want to go back because she knows they'll take that baby and then they'll make her a fucking handmaid.
Now, will they? What do you think? Do you think they will, now that they've given up Fred, force her to stand trial for other stuff. Because it's not like June didn't throw her under the fucking bus, because she did.
She can blame him for everything.
She could, but but she held her down during at least 2 documented rapes.
Right, but nobody is going to want to put a pregnant woman on trial.
Yeah, but she ain't going to be pregnant that long.
True, but that's where, like I was saying, the politics of it all comes into play, because once she's not pregnant, she's still a mother.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's where the baby thing comes in for me.
What do you mean? Because you might be saying what I'm about to say.
Just say what you're going to say then.
That may be where the paternity of the baby comes into play, because that will make her look like shit.
If it's not,
you drop that bombshell during a trial, it makes her look terrible. It buries her,
and that baby will go back to Gilead.
Not necessarily.
You don't think so? Not
necessarily. I mean, it all depends, because that's once again, that's a political move, because you're sending a baby over there when technically the mother has already asked for asylum.
This is true.
But that baby is a bargaining chip.
Big bargaining chip.
And if she's going to go away anyway,
then maybe they use it.
They might not care.
They might be like, bye, baby.
Yeah, they might not. In the end, they might not care. Especially now, because really, that baby doesn't have another parent. Well, once again, we're forgetting.
Could have another parent. Could have another parent.
That's what I was going to say. We're forgetting that part, because you know what? A lot of that bargaining depends on who the father of that baby is.
Right, will then...
Because if Nick is the father, and he is...
absconded into fucking...
He's in Canada. Because like you said, because that's another issue that's going to come up with Luke. Luke has that baby right now, but that's not his baby. So you've got a potential issue there as well, like you had mentioned before. So there's a lot of things in play here.
Yeah.
And I have to say, you may be right, because as we talk about this and extrapolate all these different angles, I hope that they've got it right, because if they play some of these things wrong, you could definitely be getting into jump the shark territory.
Easily. You can't be stupid about this.
There's a lot of loose ends here, and it may be too much for them.
So, if they're trying to tie the loose ends up with a bow and go out with a bang, then it'll be fine. Because the jump the shark territory is they leave season 5 on a fucking cliffhanger with a whole bunch more nonsense and no clarity, or like some totally jerked off story that just doesn't make sense, and then don't do another season. It's like, no, you can't do that.
Well, my final prediction, because we could go for another 4 hours about this shit, because we could go for another 4 hours about just about anything to prove that. My final prediction is that I think Nick is going to die.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how. I don't know where. And I don't know the circumstances, but I think in the end he is going to be one of the casualties. And I think in the end it will end up with, if June survives, which is not a guarantee.
Not a guarantee at all.
If June survives, I think the show will end with her, with Hannah, and with Luke trying to rebuild their lives.
Okay.
And I think Nick will end up being the fling and out of the picture, because I think he's going to end up dead.
I feel like Luke is going to be the one to kill Nick. which would then throw this whole thing apart because June will not be okay with that. And I feel like they already pre-set that up in season 2 when Nick was in Canada and told Luke about and met and talked to Luke. So Luke already knows everything he needs to know about him, and Luke already almost beat his ass once.
Yeah, but
because everything in this show has a comeback that's tied to some previous meeting, including at one point the fact that Serena and June used to go eat at the same restaurant and potentially were there at the same time. Everything in this show is cyclical, tied together.
Here's the thing, though, and I have to ask this question. Not that I want to go for another hour. What's his beef with Nick?
I think that his beef with Nick is just that he spent 7 years waiting for his wife to return, and when she returned in love with him.
But that's not
his fault. But that doesn't mean anything, because you know and I know that just the way that humans work, that it doesn't always line up mentally with that.
I just think that would be a jump the shark moment simply because I think they've shown Nick to be an incredibly reasonable guy.
You mean Luke?
Luke, I mean, yes. I think they've shown Luke to be an incredibly reasonable guy.
Yeah, but then even at the end of this season, he looked completely broken. And what we know about people in this show, when they're broken, they do wild shit.
Yeah, but that was because he saw
some wild shit.
June. Well, he saw that June is obviously way
not the person up. She was when she left.
Yeah, but I don't think that would be motivation for him to put hands on Nick, because I think they've painted him as a very reasonable dude. So unless something happens between them that would create that static, that would be a jump the shark moment for me, because I don't think there's any motivation for him to have issue with the dude. What went on, but that was her. And yeah, a lot of dudes would fly off the handle, but he's been written as somebody who is very, like, he's handled this whole thing pretty fucking well, in my opinion.
Way better than I would have handled it.
Way better than I think anybody we know would have handled it. However, I think for him to go and break character in that direction, I don't think would be good. I think the wild twist would be if Serena somehow kills Nick, but I don't see the logistics of how that could possibly happen.
That's not happening. I'm 100% sure that's not happening.
Yeah. But I think Nick is going to die, and I don't think Luke will do it. I'm not sure how it will happen. It could end up in a firefight with Gilead. I mean, we're going to see more political tension, and we're probably going to see more war-type stuff go on. Beyond that, I just don't... we've gone in a lot of interesting directions with potential for the future of it. So I think that's really my only prediction, because I think there's so many variables, it's hard to see beyond that.
Right.
But I do think that Nick is going to bite it, and I do think that Fred is not the father. And I think, like I said, it'll end with June finally getting Hannah and them putting the pieces back together. If they go with the happy ending.
If they do that, which is a big
if. It could end up everybody dies. Who knows?
Dude, I don't know. I'm interested to see where it goes, but I'm hoping that they don't jump the shark. That's all.
Do you have any predictions as far as where this is all going to go?
I think that the season 5, if season 5 is the final season, and they know going in that it's the final season, that They will do the thing that Americans absolutely need, and that's happy closure.
Right.
Even though this show is a dreary, like, pull down of a show, they will do the happy ending and get Hannah back.
I agree with you that I think with the way this show is and how dark it is, I think they need the happy ending.
Right. If they don't know that it's the last season or the last show or whatever, then we may get left on a cliffhanger. But I do know for sure Serena is not making it through the season.
Oh no, and
I'm not sure if it's going to be June or if it's going to be Gilead, but she's dying.
Well,
there's no doubt in my mind on that.
The other thing in my mind also that I didn't bring up, and I don't want to start more discussion, but is this baby even going to be born?
I think so.
It's entirely possible that something happens and she dies before that baby is born.
It's possible, but I don't think they're going to go that route.
Okay.
And the reason why I don't think they're going to go that route is I feel like that is a bridge too far for the viewer.
Okay. I don't disagree. I'm just throwing it out there because it crossed my mind earlier and I meant to mention it and I forgot.
Like, when Janine was on the bridge, she could have easily just jumped off the bridge and killed the baby. But they never, ever in the show actually harm children.
Right.
Like, the closest that you get to childhood harm is them having Esther, or whatever her name is, Key's wife. She's clearly a young teenager being forced into a marriage when she's too young. Just like Nick's wife was supposedly 15.
I was just going to say that too, yeah.
Like, teenagers are the line that they'll cross.
Right.
But children and babies is a line that they won't cross in the show, it seems. And I don't see them killing Serena, which would then kill the baby before the baby comes out.
Right.
That baby's coming out.
Okay. All right. It's just a thought that I had. It's a long shot, but you never know.
I am going to say that the scene that got me the most in the show so far, or the montage of scenes, was her in the hospital after the girl had shot up the grocery store and got shot.
Yeah.
And basically they played out her going crazy over the course of a month in a show, in an episode.
Yeah.
I feel like that episode, for me, was the turning point for June. She was never the same after that shot.
I could definitely see that.
Because she literally cracked.
Yeah, I could definitely see
They even alluded to it in a conversation with somebody else, like, during that episode. Like, you gotta hold on. And you could just see that she was gone. And from that moment on, it was a different June. But I thought about it from my own perspective of, if this was me, I would have lost it long before she did. Long
before. But that's why I referred to it as torture porn, because I've seen it with other shows sometimes where it's like, oh my God, how many things are you going to hit this guy with?
Right.
Or hit this girl with? Like 24 was like that sometimes.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
I loved 24.
I loved it, but God damn, all in 24 hours? Like, give the guy a fucking break. God damn.
I need your help, please! If you knew he was serious if he hit you with the please.
Yep. I mean, God, that was one of those shows. It's like, God damn, how many things are they going to hit this dude with?
Can you imagine that show with anybody other than Kiefer Sutherland playing?
No. And then they tried it. I didn't even watch it.
I tried it. I tried to watch it. It didn't work. At all.
I can just imagine.
I got maybe 6 episodes in the season. I was like, I just can't finish this because it's not right. You can't give me 8 or 9 seasons and a short movie with Kiefer Sutherland and then replace. It's like, did you watch the Bourne series?
No.
Oh, bro.
No.
Let me tell you, and I don't hate to fucking drag this conversation out, but I hate Matt Damon. Like, he's on my list of no thank you, not doing it. But
Affleck and Matt Damon, huh? You just hate the crew.
I can deal with Matt Damon now. Like, before, okay, let me preface it. Before the Bourne series, I was like, no Matt Damon, no Ben Affleck. They can both kiss my ass. The Bourne series made me a Matt Damon okayer. I'm not a fan, but I'm okay with him. But the key is they did 3 movies with him, and when he wanted more money, they were like, yeah, fuck you, we don't need you. We'll just put Jeremy Renner in, and it'll be fine. Man, that movie is a perfectly fine movie, but it's just not a Bourne movie. Yeah. So then they had to go back to him to do the final movie, and he got paid.
Oh.
He got paid when that last movie came out.
How'd that work out for you?
But I'm going to tell you that series is another situation. Like with Kiefer Sutherland in 24, you can't do the show or that movie without the key role. Yeah. It doesn't fucking work. You've spent too long building the character to just throw it away. Wow. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I never watched any of those movies. I'm not big on that whole genre. Like, I'm not a big...
Neither am I.
Like, I'm not a big 007 guy.
Oh, no, not at all.
I don't hate... Like, I've watched a bunch of them over the years, but it's not... they just don't jump out at me.
Yeah, I don't care for any of that stuff, to be brutally honest. Like, it's not... Like,
what's the Mission Impossible movies?
Yeah, not my... Like, it's not really my genre at all. But the Bourne series, I'm in.
Okay.
I'm fully in. Like, even when it comes up on fucking just like regular TV, I'm like, oh, Bourne's on? Shit, I'm watching.
Really?
Yeah, okay. Like, I can't even stop myself.
Like I said, I'm not hating. It's just one of those things. I'm like, eh. But I don't know. If it comes on, I might give it a peek now that you
give it a whirl. I'm telling you, give it a whirl. But start with the first one. Don't start like
watch them in order.
Yeah, because they follow an order.
Okay.
If you don't see the first one, it's not like you can't pick up on the story, but they continually build on the story. So then when you don't watch it in the right order, it's not going to be confusing. It's not like, a murder mystery or some shit.
Yeah.
It's like you're just going to miss some context.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just never... One of those things. I've seen like 2 of the Mission Impossible movies. Yeah,
my problem with the Mission Impossible movies is I'm not really a Tom Cruise fan. I don't hate him, but I just don't care. And I just wasn't particularly interested in the story, so I just didn't watch it.
I mean, I don't hate him. He's kind of hit and miss, but after Tropic Thunder, like, nothing's gonna be the same.
Oh God!
That he peaked. Like, he's never gonna match Tropic Thunder in my eyes. So it's always gonna be like, it's no Tropic Thunder.
It's no Tropic Thunder.
I mean, that was a classic moment.
I honestly didn't really like Tropic Thunder, and I know
I can't understand that. I hate Jack Black, and even he couldn't ruin that movie for me.
I don't like Jack Black at all, like, not even a little bit.
Like the way you feel about, like, Affleck. Like, that's how I feel about Jack Black. Like, I won't, like, I don't care if he's playing a Mexican wrestler. As much as I love wrestling, I won't watch it. Never watched Nacho Libre.
I saw Nacho Libre.
I won't watch anything he's in. Tropic Thunder, was the only exception.
The only movie that I'm okay with Jack Black in is High Fidelity with John Cusack.
Yeah, which that was early on, so it's like you can just pretend it's not him.
I don't think it was that early on, though.
I thought it was.
No.
Like, I don't think I was familiar with him at that point.
Oh, I was fully familiar with him at that point, but I was not a fan of him at that point either, and it almost kept me from watching the fucking movie. And then I was like, fuck it, I like John Cusack, I'll watch the movie. And I don't particularly like him in the movie, but I'm not hating, as the people would say.
Wow, he was in Waterworld? I didn't even know that.
Probably for the best.
Okay, I remember that he was in Mars Attacks for like a quick second. Yeah, that was early on. That was 2000, so that was before like Shallow Hal or...
Was for the High Fidelity really 2000?
2000, I'm looking at it right now.
Dude, I thought that movie was way like mid-2000s.
No. It was...
God damn. My whole life is a lie.
he had a bunch of other little bit parts before that. But like Shallow Hal, I think, was his first
breakout.
And it was before Shallow Hal was 2001. So yeah, it was before. Because I was going to say I was definitely not aware of him when High Fidelity came out.
Okay.
But yeah, he was in. Well, he was in Saving Silverman and Shallow Hal.
I saw him in that.
Yeah, those both came out in 2001.
I definitely had seen him before that because I saw him, and I know I saw him in Biodome.
Yeah, just say he was in Biodome.
And Cable Guy.
Yeah, but those are
two little tiny parts that I saw him in. But it wasn't like I knew him.
Biodome had Pauly Shore, so no.
Right. Oh, you were already out on that?
Dude, did I ever tell you the Pauly Shore story?
I don't know. Let's save the Pauly Shore story for another night.
It's quick.
Okay.
I'll throw it in right now just because and then we'll cut. Pauly Shore put out a couple of comedy records, okay?
Mm-hmm.
His first record came out when I was doing college radio, so it was early 91, I think. His second record came out when I was working at Tower Records.
Okay.
And they booked him for an in-store signing. He came, there's a big staircase in the middle of the store. So when people come down to do the signing, they come down the staircase, everybody sees them, you can see the crowd, whatever. He came down, sat at the table, there was not a fucking soul.
Oh, no.
There was tumbleweed going up and down the aisle. Not one person. Like,
yeah,
normally you'd have a crowd. Like, there were less people than there normally were in the store at this time. Like, people stayed away because Pauly Shore was doing the sign.
No good.
Like the boss started sending employees up just to make it look like there were people there and have him signing something. But nobody was there. Nobody. Not one.
Woof.
One of the most embarrassing things I have ever seen in my life. So, I didn't like Pauly Shore anyway, but that was just, that made me very pleased.
That's just ridiculous.
Oh, it was, by far the most embarrassing thing I ever witnessed at Tower Records. One of the most embarrassing things I've ever witnessed, period.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds uber embarrassing.
So Biodome, no.
Okay.
So, anyway, but yeah, Biodome and like Cable Guy, I don't remember him in Cable Guy.
It was bit part.
I didn't really like Cable Guy.
I like Cable Guy later. Like, okay. I grew to like Cable Guy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like Cable Guy originally. Originally, I was like, ugh, this movie is fucking terrible. And as a grown adult, I like Cable Guy.
Oh no, I may have to go back to it. I watched it back then and did not enjoy it.
Understandable, because the whole premise of that movie is complete absurdity.
Yeah, which sometimes I can get with, sometimes not. What was that stupid Tom Green movie?
Which one? Freddy Got Fingered?
Terrible. Absolutely awful.
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Ugh. Daddy, would you like some sausages?
Ugh, unwatchable. Absolutely unwatchable.
I mean, I'm not going to say that I loved that movie, because I definitely didn't love that movie. But there were a couple spots in that movie where I was just like, oh, this is fucking genius.
No, definitely not. I would say that's another dude that'll keep me away from the movie theater, but luckily Tom Green isn't really in anything.
Yeah, not at all.
Like, hating Jack Black is different because Jack Black's in a lot of shit, but like Tom Green, what does that dude been in? It's easy to avoid him. Ugh. Terrible.
Hating.
Oh, Hayden for sure. Jack Black, Tom Green, no. Absolutely not. Hard pass.
Super hard now.
Same with Adam Sandler after Waterboy.
Yeah, I can't do Adam Sandler after Waterboy. No. Done. I'm done there.
Waterboy was pushing it, and then after that, it was just full
that
downhill.
shit's not even watchable. I don't know what anybody sees in Adam Sandler past Waterboy.
Nope.
It don't make no sense to me.
Nope.
Ugh.
All right, let's call it quits on this thing before we start talking about more actors we hate. We'll save that for another episode. Movie Kryptonite. Who box office Kryptonite? Who will keep us away from the movie theater?
Oh, dude, I got a long list.
I know you got a long list. My list is probably not as long, but my hatred is
for
probably real. Like yours is spread out on a bigger list. Like mine is more concentrated.
Mm.
Like there may only be 5 guys, but I hate them 10 times more. Get the fuck off my fucking TV or movie theater or whatever. It's like you're a Jack Black. No, like Tropic Thunder was the exception. And honestly, if I knew that he was in it, I might not have watched it, which would have been a shame because I really he couldn't ruin that movie because it was that good.
I don't know. He easily could ruin that movie for me.
Yeah, I'm still confused that you don't like that movie, but
I can't do it, bro.
It's a classic.
Cannot do it.
Tom Cruise, classic. Tom Cruise's best role by far. Pure genius. Anything else you got to say before we wrap up?
No.
Any other actors you want to shit on?
All of them. Every single one. Fuck out of here. You guys don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Oh, that's right. I was going to talk shit, but then I was like, oh, he is on IMDb.
Who, me?
Yeah, you. We discussed that a long time ago.
Yeah, yep.
So,
on there.
You got the credits, so you can talk.
I got creds, baby. I got creds. Can't fuck with me.
Oh, man.
Big time actor. You think you're big time? I'll show you big time.
It's quality, not quantity.
That's me. Coming in with the quality.
Top notch.
Best acting you ever damn seen. Don't act like you're not impressed.
Award winning. Somewhere.
Some Razzie.
Meanwhile, I just ended up on the cutting room floor. Damn you.
Damn you.
Damn you. Damn you all to hell. Anyway, theupgradepodcast.net.
For all your hating needs.
For all your hating needs. Maybe we'll put Len's link to IMDb in the description of this episode.
We don't need to do that. Come on. You guys want to find it? Go find it yourselves. We're not supplying you with comedy here.
Yeah, so the upgradepodcast.net and social media, something. See you later.
Peace.
Peace.